do I get my first slide? Is
just hit, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. The background to perform a study like this is that manual chest compressions are hard to do. We know that you have to press hard, you have to compress the chest about 5 to 6 centimeters, and for a frequency of 100 per minute. And already after a couple of minutes, the performer will not be able to do more than about 20 to 30% of these compressions efficient. So that's why mechanical devices have been developed. And the device I'm talking about is the Lucas device, which is a device that has a piston and a suction cup that you adjust to the chest and will compress and decompress the chest according to guidelines. We had, before we did this randomized multicenter trial, performed experimental studies as well as pilot studies and were encouraged to move on. And before this, there was no support for using actually mechanical devices, even if they had been on the market since 2003. So we did this multicenter randomized controlled trial. Was designed to evaluate the efficacy and the safety of the Lucas concept for resuscitation of out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. And the Lucas concept included defibrillation during ongoing compressions, since perishock pauses are fatal to success. And we compared that to the guidelines that was ongoing during that time. The study was performed during 2008 to 2013, and the guidelines that was from the beginning was the 2005 guidelines, the international accepted guidelines by the American Heart and European Resuscitation Council. And this was a multi-center trial, was performed in 4 sites in Sweden, Dorset in England, and also the Utrecht in the Netherlands. And our primary objective was to show a superiority in 4-hour survival. And we also had secondary objectives, was to follow the survival up to 6 months with good neurological outcome, according to cerebral performance category scale, which is a scale of 5, where 1 is when you're back more or less to normal, 2 is you have minor lesions, but you can work independently, and most of these people go back to their work. 3 is meaning that you have moderate to severe lesions, meaning that you need assistance in daily life. 4 is vegetative, and 5 is death. And our inclusion criteria were unexpected out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, where an attempt of resuscitation was considered appropriate. We had exclusion criteria like traumatic cardiac arrest, including hanging, age believed to be less than 18, known pregnancy, and the patient's body size not fitting the Lucas. We also excluded the patients that had been defibrillated before the device had arrived to the scene, and also crew witnessed ventricular fibrillation and VT that was already defibrillated back to restoration of spontaneous circulation. And by doing that, this meant that we actually excluded probably most of the most viable patients of the cardiac arrest. If we look now at the outcome, which was the 4-hour survival, our primary objective, we had a 23.6% in the Lucas mechanical group and 23.7% in the manual CPR group. As you see, we followed also these patients up to 6 months, as I described to you before, and with good neurological outcome. And even if the figures looks in the advantage of the mechanical device, there was no statistically significant difference here. And after 6 months, we had, what was encouraging though, was that we had only 1 patient that looked severe with poor neurological outcome in the mechanical device group and 6 in the manual group. So either the patients improved during the course of the trial or they died. We were a little bit scared that we were actually, when you do a new intervention, you're always scared that you will create problems afterwards if you rescue people and they get severely injured. But that was not the case. So we concluded that mechanical chest compressions using the Lucas device in combination with defibrillation during ongoing compressions provided no improved 4-hour survival compared to the conventional manual chest compressions in out-of-hospital cardiac arrest patients. But there was good neurologic outcome in the vast majority of the survivors in both groups. So in clinical practice, CPR with the Lucas device and defibrillation during ongoing compression seems to have similar effectiveness as manual chest compressions according to guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This study is open for questions. Gentleman up here.
There is a C spokesperson. So what are the advantages of this Lucas device? For example, in very heavy patients during transport or so, if there is no survival advantage of the device?
Well, you can always ask, I mean, we didn't exclusively evaluate the mechanical chest compression device. As you know, we used this as a concept, including defibrillation during ongoing CPR. I think the advantages with this is that if you know transportation of patients and how easy it is to do perform CPR during transportation, for example, which happens off and on. If you have prolonged CPR, maybe sometimes we resuscitate our patients all the way up to 45, 60 minutes, even longer sometimes. Maybe in the cath lab there will be data presented this afternoon. So I think there are situations where it could be preferable to have mechanical assistance, even if we didn't show it. And I also think maybe in the future, when we are looking into what is going to happen next, I think that we will look more into doing customized care for the patients, individual treatment. And by now there are technology you can read through the and see the EKG through the compressions and maybe do individualized care. So I think that might be something to further explore, and the results allow us to further go on looking into this. If there was going to be a much worse outcome here, I think we had to halt. But I think this is at least giving us the opportunity to go on.
Right. Any other questions? Fine, thank you. We'll go on to the next study. Our final study is the InTime study, the influence of implant-based home monitoring on the clinical management of heart failure patients with an impaired left ventricular function. And presenter is Professor Gerhard Hendricks. Maybe you could start talking.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.